welcome back to Heal Yourself Naturally, brought to you by iPad. My name is Nicole Dromi, joined by Sara Woods Kender and Hava Levy. How are you ladies doing today?
Great.
Well, yeah.
Beautiful day, lots of sunshine. I think we should go straight into it, and we did give formal introductions on our first episode. Whoever wants to learn more about our lovely healers here, please, you can rewatch our first episode whenever you'd like. We have subscription options, and we hope to see you all in person as well. And just know that members who do join in person, you have the opportunity at the end of these discussions to ask questions, which we're all eager to answer. Today, we'll be talking about gut health. Our episode is called Gut Health. All dis-ease begins in the gut. And we spoke last week a little bit about diseases or dis-ease and what that really means in the body. And we also would like to acknowledge the fact that most, if not all, dis-ease begins in the gut. And I'd like to just drive straight into it and ask Hava, what is it that you believe is proper gut health? How would you define for a client or someone who comes to you with an ailment or a problem? And how do you begin to acknowledge their gut health and what it means to you to have proper gut health and proper bowel movements, etc.?
Right. Okay. So for me, the proper gut health is when the person is moving his bowels at least 3 to 4 times a day, depends as many times he eats. Now, many might say, what do you mean? How's that possible? 2 or 3 meals a day? If an average person eats 3 meals a day and then probably snacking all around, so that ends up adds up as another meal. So I would usually consider that if the person eats 3 meals, he should move his bowels 3 times a day. That's for me what meaning a healthy gut. Now, it's also obviously depends slow or fast is metabolism of that person is, and also depends if he's eating, let's say, 1 meal a day, then obviously you cannot ask him to go to the bathroom more than he eats. So it's really, for me, it's always about asking how many times do you eat and compare that to how many times the person is moving the bowels. And then for me, what means a healthy gut. And obviously that's like indication for me. And that's how I usually right away can tell you if that person is healthy or not, if he's having any sort of a problem. That's for me.
Sara, what would you say is your, let's call it definitions just for this basis. What is your definition of a proper or healthy gut? Or how do you feel like the gut should function?
Well, I agree with Hava, of course. I think that proper bowel movements are very important, and to certainly talk about that with your children. I think when my kids were young, it was always giggle, but it's really important to check in that way. But I also look at it as well as after a meal, you don't feel bloated or uncomfortable. I think from mouth to the rest to the end, to the colon, it's important to basically feel comfortable and not uncomfortable in regards to what you're eating and how it goes through your body. So, in particular, bloating after a meal can indicate low stomach acid, low stomach fire. We want a working gallbladder. We want stomach acid to be adequate. We want digestive enzymes to be working. And if all that is working, then eating a meal is very easy. But many people suffer discomfort on certain stages of that meal, whether it's 20 minutes after they eat or whether it's, the next day. Sometimes that can be uncomfortable. So we want digestion to be comfortable. We also want, a bowel movement for every meal you eat a day. And we also want soft, formed stool that isn't really loose or isn't really hard. So it's kind of in between those two things. It should be a regular brown color. You know, it shouldn't be gray. It shouldn't be greasy. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't see food in there. If you're not digesting your food properly, you shouldn't have chunks of food in there. I know it sounds gross, but this is all, you know, these are all indications of that process not working. So that's what I look
Right. And that's really, I think, a big issue in our society today is people are very uncomfortable talking about whether even if they poop or not, because we've had cases, I'm sure many of us, where the first question is, okay, so do you poop? And, oh yeah, sure, I poop. But it's like, okay, how often do you poop? Like I poop, I'm regular, right? It's a topic that makes people so uncomfortable when really we should be open about the fact that our body is functioning properly. And people who are ashamed of it rather, you know, make up these excuses or faces or whatever the case might be. And it's all is normal, all is normal. When in reality, it's normal. I've had people that I've spoken to where it's like, oh yeah, but I Googled it and it's okay for me to poop only twice a week, you know, and it's, where does it all go? What's happening? And so it really then we have to go back into to teaching and making people understand, okay, what happens to all that has nowhere to go, right? So let's just get back to the basics and kind of make people understand in layman's terms what happens to all that, whether it be good food, bad food, trash, junk food, oils, whatever it is, what happens to the body when it doesn't eliminate, right? So, Hava, what do you have to say to our viewers?
Right. So in the biblical studies, this actually shows that 95% of all diseases, they begin in the gut, and it's for reason. And the rest, it's only, and I rest 5%, it's from the evil. So, so that's how really important it is to understand that. And when we look at the person and whoever comes to see you, he's already having problems with digestion, and that's how in simplified matter is. So even if he comes for you for hair problems, that's indication of a toxicity in the stomach. If he comes for eye vision problem, that's a problem because toxicity in the gut. Even for the hip problem that many people don't understand is correlated to the gut health. So it's very important for the viewers to understand, as well as Sara mentioned so nicely, and she said that it's a bowel movements, which are how you eat after, but we really, I want you to, whoever is listening to us, to understand all diseases, 95% of them, they starting from the gut. So that's how important it is. So anything that happens in your body, it happens because you're not moving, digesting, and processing the food. So this is like the base of all. And for me, it's very important, obviously, to look why the person is not digesting and processing, because the body is a self-healing machine. So what happened on that way? It starts from the beginning, and the basic is because we don't know the basic rules, which is proper chewing the food, keeping yourself hydrated, making sure that you don't sleep after you eat. A simple thing as chewing your food, many people have no idea. So I always go to the basics, and basics for me is whenever you put the food in your mouth, make sure that you chew your food correctly till it becomes really mushy. Yes, some say it should be like a water. You should drink your food and chew your water. That's actually one of the famous doctors once mentioned that about the juices. The juices should be chewed, and the food that you eat should be so liquefied, because we don't have a pair of teeth inside. And most people, we are rushing, we just not chewing, we just
Swallow, swallow.
yes, we just take it by, especially young mothers who are busy, whoever, I mean, business people, whoever, all walks of life. We lost these basics. When you eat, you come down, You don't rush. You don't drive your car. Look what happened. We live in a society where now it's not now. It's this horrible invention that you can drive by eating, right? You can just stop the car by McDonald's, buy yourself a garbage, whatever it is, or even a healthy food. It doesn't matter. And then you, while you're driving, you eating. What you do? You don't even chew your food. You're just gobbling. You're swallowing. You're not looking. Maybe you just swallow a bug, or maybe there was just a worm hiding. It doesn't matter. You're just eating quickly because you're not really connecting. And it's all about the smell, the connection. So chewing the food is so important. And whenever, then what we do, the next thing, we eat and drink, we dilute all the juices, right? And so on, so on. So that's like the basics we are lacking. And I always start from the beginning. Whoever comes, the first question is, do you move your bowels? And the second question that I will go over, how you eat your food. Because if you eat the food the way as I mentioned, then you're not absorbing anything. And you just have a chunk of pieces going down there. And from there, maybe they will go out. Maybe they will stuck there and cause inflammation and
So
cause
that
many other
there's
issues.
that key, that key amount of chewing, which is like 20 to 35
Some
times.
say the amount of the teeth.
Yeah.
As
So
many teeth you have, that
36, so
amount.
let's say 36 times. You chew, 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 then you swallow.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned not drinking while you eat. Well, a lot of people, they're like, heaving
They
down a whole
eat,
bottle of,
but because they're gobbling the food and it's full of their mouths, then they
because they're
drink
not
to
chewing it
dilute.
properly.
Exactly.
So
So
what is
that's
the
like the
key?
base.
What do you say is the key of people shouldn't drink while they're eating, but they should drink before they're eating, and then how long after? I know that there's like a time period to there, it's like 20
Right.
minutes before, 20 minutes after,
So
right?
usually they say that you should drink before you start your meal. Oh, we have someone who joined us. That's so nice. So you should start before you eating your meal. You can drink, but then I also say depends what you eat. If you eat a certain meal that it's that hello, if
Hi,
you eat
thank
a
you for
certain
joining us.
meal that it's might be like a too dry, yes, you can drink a little bit water, but not Coke, not all the sweetie drinks, which is dilutes the juices.
Right.
Prefer not to drink all these carbonated liquids because they are absolutely disgusting. Not disgusting, but they are not healthy for our gut. It's like usually it's like drink your own pee. Kind of. I mean, some say the pee is healthy. Okay, don't catch me
Right.
on the word.
That's another topic.
Some
That's another
people
method
say
of
drinking
viewing. No,
pee
no,
is
you drinking
healthy.
your urine. We know all about that,
I
but
know. I don't want
that
to.
should be a class in itself.
I don't want to get in there, but basically it's like whatever you excrete. Okay, so don't catch me on the word, but the meaning is like it's not good for the stomach. And I did found that I remember that my grandmother, if I've heard them what they ate at those times. They would piece of bread and wine. They did had some wine. Wine is good for digestion, so it's a little bit wine. It's okay. A good water is perfect, but not all the inventions that are absolutely crazy. So
Right.
yeah, so it also depends on the food, and it's also in a very small quantity. So I'm not saying eat your food, but if you eat something that it's so dehydrating that like you barely can chew it, it's okay to a little bit drink and help yourself. Yeah, but that's how I would.
So, but I want to, I would like an answer from Sarah, going back to what I was really leaning towards is what, once a person doesn't have proper gut digest, once they're not digesting properly, they don't have proper gut health, what happens to the body with all that fecal matter that is stored, right? What I really want people to envision it as like, like a cycle, right? We're eating, it's stored. What happens then? Right? I would love to know. I
Yes,
just want
okay.
people to understand what happens to their body when they're not eliminating properly.
So
Where
how
does
do you
everything
feel?
go?
So
Yeah.
we look at everybody individually, of course, but
Right.
if somebody comes into the shop, or whomever I'm talking to at the time. I mean, I have to say honestly, most people have issues with digestion, but it can manifest in many different ways. So
Right.
when we want to kind of gauge their elimination time. So sometimes you can eat corn to see how long it takes to go through your body, right? And it should be 12 hours, it should be, that's about the average. Sometimes it's 24, that's a little bit too long. So if your food is staying, especially if it's in your small bowel, it can start to ferment, and that's never a good thing to start fermentation in the small bowel. You do have a fair amount of fermentation going on in the large bowel, which is normal because you have all those wonderful bacterial colonies in there. But things that can manifest that aren't normal is obviously bloating and feeling heavy, belching, lots of flatulence and gas. Um, Headaches are often a common manifestation of not digesting your food properly. It can also be an indication of food allergies. I would say fatigue. I would say in certain people I've noticed, and one lady comes to mind in particular. She's like, "Oh, I've never had normal bowel movements. I probably have one every week." And I look at her, and she does look toxic. Her color is off. She looks kind of gray green. Her skin was not very good. So you can tell she's reabsorbing some of the toxins that her body is trying to eliminate. So, you know, whereas the manifestation of poor digestion can run the gamut in regards to symptoms, we want to hone in on a few typical ones, which is headache, fatigue, lethargy, bad color, and everything.
Acne.
Acne is,
People
yep, acne,
acne or
skin
skin
issues.
problems, right?
Sure. Yep.
That is
But I
all the
also want to point out one thing you said, Nicole, was asking people what, if they say, oh, my digestion is good. And you're absolutely right. It's all relative because we don't talk about it enough. And I don't think a lot of people know what good digestion is, right? And
because
so
if you Google it, right, if you go on this tell-all server that's just absolutely correct, then it'll tell you that proper bowel movements is really once or twice. It can be twice in a week, which is mind-blowing,
that's
and people believe
crazy.
that.
That's
It's crazy.
and
I've had an argument with a family member not long ago who has very many issues, skin issues, you name it. And the first thing I always tell them is, but why aren't you moving your body? Oh no, Google said blah, blah, blah. And that person is, in a sense, for me, a lost cause. I always try and I give information, whatever. But at the end of the day, people are looking to censored resources to get their information, and that's what's lacking in today's society, is that we have to take things back into natural medicine, natural healing, herbal medicine, to really understand how the body should function, what it should be doing properly.
Yeah. It's pretty basic. Yeah.
So what I was trying to really get at is, okay, once we don't eliminate, the body produces these toxins, right? This toxicity from in the gut, and then it trickles on and it goes to other areas in the body. And we can see a lot of things like you've mentioned, whether it be migraines. One of the major ones is migraines, acne, it can be even flu or a cold, right? Can manifest because there's so much toxicity in the body. And overall, it just goes into our blood stream, right? If someone is really, really not moving their bowels, I have in my own case where my first pregnancy, I did not go to the bathroom. It was maybe like once a month. And my doctor told me it was perfectly normal. And by the end of the pregnancy, I was practically, I was surprised I was even alive, or that my child was born somewhat, healthy. But, we have to understand that so much happens to the body once we don't eliminate. We have to get rid of the toxins in order to properly then nourish the body and detoxify from other things. And
that's right. Yeah.
We do.
I like to say that we are
Yeah.
walking poops. I want everyone to remember we are walking poops. Behavior, everything depends on how much you store in.
Right.
So most people are walking poops. So whoever you see beautiful outside, don't think they are constipated inside.
Right.
Yeah. And we have to...
I would love to talk about different methods of aiding the bowels or the gut, right? Because there's different things that we can do that even, okay, let's say we're chewing properly and we're not drinking while we're eating and we're not eating certain foods. Everybody is so individual, so they do have to listen to their body. So if a salad makes you feel bloated, then maybe a salad is not for you. If meat is that thing, or maybe you should be introducing things into your diet or into right, like proper enzymes, probiotics. I'd love to hear from both of you. Hava, what are some things that you would suggest to people to do in order to aid you know, the gut, and maybe some methods for expelling bowel
Right.
movements?
Right. So this is a huge, it's one of my favorite topics, because I really connect this, as I said in the beginning, to all diseases, right? From the hair to the, as I mentioned, even to the hip problem. And for that reason, the main education needs to start from proper digestion, as I said, meaning that you have to chew your food. If you don't chew it, then there is an imbalance in the stomach. Next thing will be to eating a clean food. If you eating a junk food, meaning that you eating a heavy processed food, that's already will cause implication and will have a hard time removing and to moving the bowels. So the first, I would like also to people to learn to look really what exactly goes inside my mouth. Do I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, or do I eat a lot of donuts and a lot of breads, and, like, you know? And the problem is that we live in society where we are not even trained those simple things. And we live in a society that it's such a brainwashed from all different areas, instead really learning about yourself, meaning maybe I have a slow digestion, so maybe I cannot eat that much meat. And then you should listen to your inner voice. You should teach your children to listen into their inner voice, so that way they will understand which foods are good and which food are not good. That was the beginning of my journey, when my kids would get sick all the time, and I went to different natural practitioners, and everyone come up with the new ideas. Oh, for them the buckwheat is not good, for this one rice is good, for this one stay away from milk, but for this one milk is good. See, it's become such a complicated matter that we lost the track. So the best thing is to really listen to your inner voice, meaning that you see that if there is certain food that you eat, it makes you happy, it makes you good, it makes you really energized, or you eat and then you're ready to sleep. See, that's the first thing. If you want to heal your gut, the first thing you need to do is to listening to yourself, because the outside, as I always say, nobody lives inside your body. So I don't know how you eat. When you eat, let's say, potatoes, how do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel good? Do you feel energy? Or you feel like a sleepyhead? Or the same comes to the meat. If 20 years ago I would mention that I would suggest some of my clients eat meat, they would look at me, what do you mean? Are you not vegan? You're not plant-based? Like, what? No, because I've seen cases where people who are on plant-based diet got sick, lost most of their muscles, lost most of their vigor and health, and build themselves. See, that's such a complicated matter. That's always to say, our job is to teach you to become your own doctor, to give you the tools so you will understand. Oh, so Hava said that I can try meat. Okay, yes, try meat and see how do you feel. Eat maybe plant-based, and see how do you feel, because each of us also go through cycles, emotionals, roller coaster, maybe, also depends on our money wise. So always look at an entire picture. Let's say if you are now going through a hard time, as many Americans do now, do not eat too much heavy food, because you cannot process it, right? Listen to your inner voice. And someone will come, no, eat this raw steak. Yes, but maybe that person cannot digest this because he has no enzymes, So that's the beginning, is listening to your inner voice. And I always suggest have a food journal, and write down the food that you feel they're good for you and not good for you. And then
But what
do
are
not
some
come.
therapeutic, what are some things that you would suggest to people regardless of that? Okay, let's say they are listening to their body, they're getting bloated or whatever. So would you suggest digestive enzymes?
Right. So,
Right.
So the first thing that I always suggest, obviously, is I made this herbal formula. It's called bowel food formula, that helps to eliminate the garbage
Can you see it?
from the system. from the system, and helps to eliminate garbage from the system and helps to restore. But we're going to go further, speak about the herbs. Other thing that I do suggest is a life start probiotics or any sort of a good probiotics. Now I work with the mother of probiotics. She's the one who invented probiotics, so I really trust her scientific view. And probiotics is something that I would suggest, but not always. Let's say if you are feeling down and you eat something and you feel bloated, then take some probiotics. Now you should know which one to take. And what I love about this company, they are separate between the strains. So there is a strains that helps, that promote regularity, that helps you to move the bowels. Then there is a strains that helps to absorb nutrition and overall nutrition, because we don't absorb and digest correctly. Or let's say the strain that really helps to really absorb the food in the correct way. So that way, because each bacteria lives in a different area in the stomach. But that's why I like about this company, that they separate between the strains.
You said it was called Life Start?
For the children, it's called Life Start. Yeah, I think for the children it's a Life Start, and I would suggest for all the mothers.
Pro-10. I saw something on there. What is it called?
Yes, a Pro-10. Yeah, Pro-10 probiotics. Yes, but the idea is to bring a good flora into your stomach, obviously, right? To help yourself with to digest it. But first, no, do not cause harm. That's the first thing. I really want to people understand before even we're jumping into supplements. First, no harm. Stay away from a toxic food. Listen to your body, and then I would suggest, after listening to your body and knowing what is good for, stay away from prepackaged food. Those packages are not meant to eat. I come from Georgia. We've never had any packaged food. I remember when I was like about maybe 16 years old, when the first time the Snickers was brought to Europe, and we didn't know what it is, and we looked at the packages like the one people who've never seen anything in their life, and we're looking,
but now it's something that's regular for us. I mean, everybody is just,
and the children are being fed this. And
I really liked what Sarah said when she, sorry to cut you off, Hava, but when Sarah spoke about how she raised her children to really speak about their bowels and know what it is, right? And I would love for you also to tell us, like, maybe some pointers for people who have a hard time having that conversation. I do that with my children. We talk about poop all the time. Are you pooping? Did you go to today in school? I know some children are, the second they go into daycares or schools, that's it. They become constipated. It's terrible. But how do you have that discussion with your children, Sarah? How did you bring that into the house and make it important for your children to understand?
For one thing, just like with anything bodily related, I just have to tear down my preconceived notions about it. I had to delve into my own upbringing and how it was never discussed. And I decided, well, I'm going to do it different, because your body is your temple, right? And it shouldn't be something embarrassing, and it shouldn't be something that we don't discuss. And it goes as far as menopause with women. They never really discussed it with each other. And in the United States anyway, I mean, culturally, I'm sure it's different, but I just didn't make it a big deal. It was just like, how are you today? Did you poop?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like in my house too.
Conversation I have with them with their cycles. I have 2 daughters, and I just always incorporated it into my discussions with them, and just whatever I was talking about, I just try to make it not a big deal. It was just like potty training.
We want our viewers to understand it's nothing to be ashamed of. You should talk to your children. You should talk to your partners about it. You should talk to your husband, your wife, whomever it may be. Are you pooping? What does it look like? What is it right? There's so many things that people need to understand about we have our inner voice, and we have to learn how to listen to it, but we have signs in our bowel movements, right? We have to really learn to understand those signs. Is it clumpy? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it runny? Is it diarrhea, just like, is another form of constipation, with most people just don't understand or can't grasp that. And our body speaks a language and we have to learn how to listen to it, whether it be through physical signs that we can see or emotional signs, like Hava was saying, like, is this food making me feel good? Is it not making me feel good? So it's really listening, right? Listening, and then involving different things like enzymes, probiotics. Sarah, what are other methods that you would say that could help someone, whether it be if they're constipated, if they have runny stools, what we can speak about different herbs, different foods, different methods of expelling.
Yeah, so I have a lot of different things that I use in my practice to help people
Yeah.
with gut issues. And first and foremost, I really kind of want to look at their constitution. So what do I mean by that? Well, I basically mean, are they dry? Do they run dry? Do they run hot? Do they look like they're holding a lot of fluid? What's their constitution? And then I can kind of mix the herbs with that. So I do suggest, unless there's a hiatal hernia involved in, if you know what that is, if you don't, I can explain it. But essentially, a hiatal hernia is when that upper esophageal sphincter comes above the diaphragm, and it can create a lot of discomfort, and it can cause GERD. But GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease, is a common disease in our culture because of poor diets. It can be caused by a hiatal hernia or not. So if there is a hiatal hernia, I do not recommend digestive bitters, but if there isn't, I do recommend digestive bitters, which is essentially a formulation that has bitter herbs in it. Now, bitter herbs like burdock root, yellow dock, gentian tend to be cooling. So if that person has already a cold constitution, I tend to want to do more warming herbs. And in that sense, I have another bitter. It's not quite as bitter, but I call it my warming bitters. And it's fennel and cinnamon and what else do I put in there? Fenugreek and lots of really nice digestive cardamom, but warming. And so that they're antispasmodic, so it helps with, stomach discomfort in general, whether, it's at the top where the stomach is or where the small intestine is. So we start with that. And then if there's some downstream problems, so constipation and or diarrhea, I do, have a general discussion with them, but I have two formulations in my apothecary. One I call a healing gut powder, and that's a formulation that contains things like Oregon grapefruit and marshmallow and slippery elm. And what that's going to do is help move the stool through and get them regular, so they're not reabsorbing their toxins, and they're less uncomfortable. But what that also does is actually help heals leaky gut, which, if you don't know what leaky gut is also called gut hyperpermeability. And that is essentially inflammation, mostly in the small intestine, where, you have trouble with absorbing undigested food into your bloodstream, which can cause a lot of problems, joint pain and brain fog and things like that. So I have bitters, I have gut powders, which are encapsulations, and I also do teas. And so tea, in general, it's called a tummy tea. It's pretty, utilitarian in name, but it certainly helps a lot of people. Things like catnip, plantain leaf, ginger, orange peel. All these are wonderful digestive herbs that just help. They're antispasmodics. They help the food move through, because many people, their number one issue is transit time. People get into trouble with what's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because they have slow transit time. They're chewing up all their enzymatic action in their small intestine, then they get some bacteria that gets overgrown, and then they get a bunch of problems. They get lots of bloating and discomfort, and they have to really be careful what they eat. So, there's a lot of different approaches, a lot of different herbs, but we certainly are asking lots of different questions as well, because everybody is so individual, and the herbs really I like to match. And there's one other thing that I really use a lot. I did bring a visual aid today, and this is a fermented zucchini, because I have zucchini coming out of my, right now. It's you don't harvest for 2 days and they're like this big, or this.
Right.
So what I did today is I ground a bunch of zucchini and I decided I was going to ferment it. And I do the wild fermentation process, which is essentially just it's a salt brine, and just the grated zucchini, and I put some garlic cloves in it. And I've got my handy little airlock. So this is a really simple, cheap way to create your own. Not only is it going to be a probiotic, so there's lactobacilluses in there, there's lots of really nice digestive probiotics in there, but it's also full of prebiotics. And prebiotics is essentially the food for the good bacteria that live in your gut. So you want to be doing both as well. So other prebiotics, fruits and vegetables are always wonderful to keep in the diet if you can eat them. But applesauce is an excellent prebiotic because that pectin in there is going to be food. So
that's why they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? It creates good, helps with the digestion in the stomach. And so I think also everybody should take on fermenting. It's a thing of the past, or even if you can go to a restaurant or a local food place or a little mom and pop shop that that they're making, whether it be homemade kimchi if you love it, or sauerkraut, right?
And they're super easy to make. It's cheap.
They're super easy to make, but some people just don't like to do their own thing. But that's
absolutely.
We want to change that. We want people to understand that healing is so within your grasp. It's so easy to do if you really just do it, right? If you're just going to give it your all, or even start small, whether it be just making a simple fermentation like out of zucchini, if you're growing too much zucchini, or if you bought some and you have nothing to do with it and you decided I don't want to use it anymore, well, make some fermented zucchini. And just start slow to bring certain little things in, whether it also just drinking a nice digestive tea after a meal, like Sara said, whether it be, peppermint tea. In a lot of cultures, that's something that you do after eating a heavy meal, or ginger, dandelion, etc.
And on that vein too, a lot of, and not that I'm advocating everyone drink alcohol after a meal, but many of the drinks that were made historically were made with herbs that are digestive herbs, anise and zambuca, that's one of them. That's just one of many different alcoholic beverages that were employed for people. Obviously they're enjoying that alcohol piece, but it's also helping their digestion.
But it certainly was given in the end of the meal for a certain reason. We lost all reason. We just consume it whenever, however. But it's important to understand that those are some things that are really, starting small, and first of all, understanding and listening to your body. Also people with inability to go, right? They could use something like an enema, or start bringing enemas into your life, whether it be, most of us have parasites in our body. Parasites are there for a reason, but then they can start, taking over and whatnot. And so, doing enemas is something that's really important. I think that people should, be less scared of, even though it may seem uncomfortable or whatnot. After you do it twice, it becomes kind of like an addiction. It's something that you can, really look forward to doing. I know Hava has suggested many times in her classes to at least purchase one and have it handy and use it. Do you have one to show us, Hava?
Right. So yes, as I mentioned before, first is we should stop harming ourselves and really removing garbage out of our systems, so that way we can rebuild and renourish ourselves. So, and really something that's removing the garbage that people don't understand. And I really want, when I saying walking poops, is not to really hurt people feeling, but really to let them understand that we can hold up to 20 pounds of a fecal matter. I really want people to go out, like go to the market and buy stuff and hold them in your bags. And that, if it's 20 pounds, that's how much garbage we hold in. That's what we really don't understand. I really want people, whoever will listening to our podcast, and we have a wonderful listeners here, to really imagine this in your mind. What do you mean that I hold so much? Well, the best way to do it is to doing an enema. And that way, when you do an enema, you really realize that how much garbage will suddenly start pouring out from your body. And when you look in the bowl, which is full of shit, then you will realize that's how much you're holding in. Then you will realize that your emotions, all your struggle, even marriage, even all those problems will might slowly disappear and leave your body. And many times we say all the dictators that we had through the history, they've all been constipated. Imagine how much garbage they kept in our system. The king of the pop, the pop, no, the Elvis Presley, he had so much fecal matter. So he was singing beautiful music, but unfortunately he was fulfilling his stomach with a lot of garbage, and by the way he passed away while he was trying to eliminate this garbage. So that's, I really want people to remember. So yeah, as Nicole mentioned, don't be afraid to use an enemas. You should buy a good enemas. Don't buy cheapy ones. Buy good ones, and start with the simple water. You just add some steam distilled water into it, and go and put some music, light some candles, and just let the flow. And then you will see that how much garbage is piles up, how much garbage we keep in, and just start just removing this from your system. So I really like using enemas as the beginners, like, and then you can go to more professionals if you want to. I'm not saying that it should be a crutch, and from now, oh, I cannot move my bowels, so I'm gonna now do the enema. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to deciding once or twice a year, do some sort of a detox, and go on some juices, and stop eating all the time, and just let yourself relax and chill out, and then do some enemas, and that will really help you. Another wonderful thing that I use in my practice is something it's called zapper. Zapping, it's absolutely incredible. It really helps to make all the parasites, whatever we have in the system, uncomfortable. And it's all about creating circulation, as we remember we spoke last time. So I really love zapper. I think each home, when they build their own sanctuary, should have those basic stuffs, from light therapy to clapping to enemas, to zappers, and basic stuff. And as Sara mentioned, basic herbs, they need to be on hand. I will add also something that I suggest to everyone have on hand, which is not an herb, but it's very important. It's called charcoal. And charcoal is very important, and many people don't understand that whenever we eat something that it's garbage, the one of the best thing is to really take some charcoal, and it will help to remove garbage and detoxify your stomach. So use those stuff. Other things as minerals. Let's say you don't have a probiotics, but what you can use, as Sara mentioned, make some probiotics. Kombucha, all those great stuff are very good as long they made correctly. You also have to be careful, because many take over the small companies, and then they recreate those fancy companies that no longer carry any value. So certain things are very important. This is the basic of our life. And you know what, bring your children to your kitchen, force them to cut some chopped cucumbers and some tomatoes, and be more connected to what unfortunately we are being disconnected. And it is a job. It is hard, I know. Especially I live in the city, so it's even harder. It's hard to suddenly think, oh, why I don't have a cucumber, so what should go to your farmer's market and buy from them and support them. It's just getting more in touch with the mother nature that will heal you. That's how I look at that. Go to get connected to mother nature, and it will guide you. and we are so off. We don't understand the basics, and that's
You
how
mentioned
important.
having sorry, Hava, to cut you off, but you
Please.
mentioned having your own formula that you've created. What are some herbs that you have put in there?
It's a combination of the herbs, and actually many of the herbs that Sara mentioned, which I have the fennel there, and I have a berberry there, and there is also let's say one of my favorite is obviously cayenne, which helps everyone to move and put everyone into work. And yeah, so it's a wonderful combination that really works on expelling and removing toxins from the system. But in reality, it's good to know some herbs like Sara mentioned, that so that you have even basics, so that you know how to play. Oh, I overeat, so which herb I should take, or maybe should drink some fennel tea, or some lemon balm, or certain things are basics that we should all know about them. And Sara is amazing to
Yeah,
tell us about those.
absolutely. I think also people should listen to their body. So if anise is something that's too much for them, or it doesn't make them feel good because it can cause a quicker reaction in them, then listen to your body. As you both have mentioned, we have to listen and see what works for us, and then take it upon ourselves to introduce it more and to care for our body, because at the end of the day, whatever we're holding inside, whether it be 20 pounds of fecal matter or not, even people who have proper bowel movements sometimes have poor digestion, or not poor digestion, but their gut is still not healthy because of what they're eating. Some people are lucky enough to have proper metabolism and overly active metabolism, let's say, but they're still not eating well enough, and their body's still absorbing toxicity. And so just take care of yourself and introduce really good things into your diet.
I will add something. I'm sorry that I disturb, but I really want to mention that everything that we're mentioning here is a try and error. So meaning the stuff that we're suggesting, they will not gonna cause you any harm. So let's say if you take some fennel, drink it, see how do you feel, and then if you feel uncomfortable or you feel too heat, that's maybe not for you, then try a different. That's the beauty of it. And the difference is between modern medicine and what we do, there is no harm of zapping yourself all day long, right? There's no harm in it. There's no harm in trying to drinking a beet fermented drink. There's no harm in it. Listen, if you drink too much and then you rush to the bathroom and you having a diarrhea, you should be happy, because the body shows you, oh, you have so much, you exaggerated, you took too much. So now don't drink that much beets, and don't have, so that's what the beauty is. It's like you trying. That's what being your own doctor, that's what being your own healer is, when you are listening, you trying, you open-minded, and there's no harm in what we do. There is a harm when you go to modern medicine, they will prescribe you antibiotics. This is harm, right? Maybe it's good for that minute, but taking that much can cause harm. But hey, drink the pineapple juice a whole entire day. Let's see what will happen. Nothing. The body will bless you, because God gave us all this amazing stuff. I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I add something there too?
Yes, please.
Because I'm gonna put a plug in here for the energetics of it all.
Yes,
of course. If we look at digestion in general, it's pretty much how we process life, right? That's what it symbolizes. Your digestive process is how we process life. So if you tend to have a high metabolism or whatever, you tend to be loosey-goosey, then what's the rush? What are you rushing around for? What's happening in your life that you can't sit down and smell the flowers? And the antithesis of this is also, if you're constipated, what are you holding on to? Many children are constipated. Of course it has, of course it's got to do with diet, right? And what they're eating. But I notice that many children who are constipated have control issues. They're trying to control their environment. Children who refuse to eat certain foods. What can a child do beyond anything is control what goes in their mouth. So this is all about control. So then we want to address that. We always want to address the energetics. If an adult is constipated, you bet that they're holding on to something. So what is it? Let's talk about that. And when you get that out, you get the other stuff out. So I just want to add that.
No,
I think
absolutely, because
it's important.
we've said many times that healing in a whole is not just about what you're putting in your body. It's not just about your actual body. It's also what surrounds you and the
In
energy
your
and
brain,
your brain
your
and
thoughts, your energies, right? Exactly.
absolutely. It works in a whole and in tandem. And if you are doing all these things that should be aiding your gut, but still something's not going and you're constipated, okay, then you're holding on to something like Sarah said, and you need to learn how to let go on a psychological level, and hoping that it'll help release, right? Last week we did speak about circulation, and it also has a lot to do with the circulation in our gut. And we mentioned, I believe Hava mentioned hydrotherapy, and I want to mention that again. That's something that's extremely easy for people to do, is using hot and cold water in order to get things moving. And it's very soothing, and it alleviates, whether it be bloating or indigestion, it can help things flow. So just know that that's another method of aiding the body. I just thought I should mention that. Things like reflexology massage, which is highly used in Chinese medicine as well. And reflexology, I have personally used it on my children when they are constipated or sick, and I've gone into that area of the colon and intestines, and I just even the slightest bit of pressure and working on it, whether it be with like cayenne salve, or whether it be just with olive oil, and just getting in there and massaging the area and feeling how much tension there is in that area in my child's body, working it ever so slightly, and lo and behold, they're able to use the bathroom after. So there are so many different methods that could be used in elimination and helping eliminate your bowel movements. But we also just have to understand that it's not just about eliminating, it's what you're putting in after, right? So you eliminate, but are you eating well? Are you eating food or even if you are someone that eats healthy, where are you getting your food? People don't understand that in the supermarket, if you're getting things that are even labeled as organic or non-organic, how many chemicals are in those foods? What water are you drinking? Is it bottled water that is full of toxins? Or, there's so much that goes into it. And at the end of the day, our body is able to process things in the gut. But at the end of the day, we don't want to overwhelm it as well, because there's only so much that the gut can do, and we have to aid it, whether it be starting to grow your own foods like Sara has been doing and has done, and successfully has been able to feed her family. I don't know if any of you ladies want to mention anything else, and then we can take a question if there is one from our live viewer.
I do. I want to mention again with the energetics, because I was thinking about it. And if you think about digestion, it's pretty much hitting all the chakras, right? If you know the chakra system. And it's
I'd love for you to mention it. Yeah, I don't know.
So the chakras are your basic 7 energy centers in your body. And it starts at the crown. There's your third eye. There's your throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus, sacral, and root. And when I look at someone in general, and if they're having digestive issues, many times it's in the throat. So there's your swallowing, what are you swallowing? What can't you swallow? What aren't you expressing? But really, when I look at digestion, I think again with the solar plexus, and just to mention that control stuff, their solar plexus is the seat of control. It's the seat of power. It's where our power comes from as an individual, as a person. And it's that butterfly feeling when you get excited about something, or that feeling, that gut instinct. Oh, I don't know about that person. Oh, I really like that person. And so in Reiki, what's awesome about Reiki is that not only do we look at all the chakra systems, and you can tell if someone's having digestive problems just by, I can anyway, in a Reiki session, But when we address the control issues, when we addressed the root chakra issues, which is instinct, which is family and foundation, we emotionally address those, and again, physically, transformations happen. So solar plexus and root, as well as throat in Reiki sessions can be amazing for people who have digestive issues in general. And certainly most people, in my opinion anyway, most people are constipated rather than the other way around. So
Right.
unless they don't have a gallbladder, of course, and that can.
Sarah, and on that note, it's amazing that you mentioned this, because on top, I will add something that I've seen a lot, that people no longer touch themselves. And when we speak about, and the way so beautifully you posted, I usually look at the children, or not the children, and adults, and say, do you touch yourself? Like, can you just touch and feel if you have something, and I always say, just massage it, and many
Yeah.
people don't understand, like, what do you mean? Like, because we've been so far away from our body, is that we no longer look at ourselves and this is my body, I can touch, I can, and I've had the recent case of one young boy who was never touched his stomach, and he had an issue, obviously, and I always, can you touch? And he doesn't know even how to, so he was touching like this. And then you see how people are off touch, like, touch yourself, feel it. If you have some pain, massage it, just give some love. And that's what it's so beautiful when you tell about the chakras, and when we usually say, oh, I'm going to massage them, don't. First feel yourself, understand, do you have a pain? If you have
Has a lot to
you
do with what you said last time about clapping, about
right,
just
but
giving that
but the problem
little
is
bit of time to feel.
the most people, let's say, have in the center pain, right? So touch it, massage it. Same thing goes to the sides, and that's the beauty of it. And thank you, Sarah, for mentioning, and hopefully people will understand that
Yeah.
touching, it's very,
I
very
also just want to
important.
mention, for anybody who wants consultations or help from you too, specifically, you can visit their website. There's also some remedies and herbs that you can purchase through their site or through consultation. And we have Sarah's website, that's sarahsherbs.com, and Hava's website, havawellness.com. Please, you can always reach any of them through there. Or through us here, if you're live, if you'd like to ask any questions, we'd love to hear from my live viewer if you have any questions. If not, then we'll end off with our ending video, and
We should
will,
do that before the questions anyway, but
yeah. So, but I do want to mention, last episode we talked about circulation. This episode, we talked a lot about gut health and diseases beginning in the gut. And next week, we'll be talking about, or next episode, we'll be talking about detoxification basics. So detoxification with herbs and with food, because food is just as much our medicine as herbs are. And so we'll talk about different methods of detoxification, different herbal remedies that can help detoxify the blood, the system. And yeah.
The beauty is that what we do is we really divided a program in such a beautiful way that if you follow us, you will understand. The first, it begins because there is no blood flow. Then all diseases begin in the stomach because we are full of shit. Next thing, you will learn how to get rid of the shit. And then and the beauty is that we all experience here. We know what are the basics. We all mothers also, and we do understand that this important topic. So follow us.
Yeah. Follow our train of thought. We have an order to things for quite a reason, and we do want people to overall to understand that when speaking to clients or people or friends or whatever, this is how we address things. Is there proper circulation? Is there proper gut movement? How is our gut health? And then next, we're going to touch on detoxification Once we've covered those two things in the body, then we detoxify. So let's run our video, and then if we have a question from our live viewer, we'd love to hear it.